here today from Alive and Loud. I'm Charlie. I'm with KMFDM here in Buffalo. What's up, guys?
Not too much.
Not much.
All right.
Coffee.
Just kicking off the 40th anniversary tour of KMFDM, which sounds wild. How's it going so far?
Going real good.
Good. Yeah.
This is the 5th show today, and we've been to Milwaukee, Detroit, Indianapolis, and Columbus, Ohio.
All right. Loaded question. Who's been the biggest crowd so far? Who's been the best?
It's been around 700-800 each night.
Yeah.
Yeah, crowds have all been the same. They've all been good. Although I didn't particularly enjoy last night.
Columbus?
Yeah.
I like Columbus a lot.
Yeah, there was a good vibe last night.
That's cool. That's cool. Where'd you play there?
St. Andrew.
Newport.
Newport Music Hall?
Yeah.
Got it. Sweet. Yeah, that's a cool place. I like to go out there once a year with some buddies for a festival in the spring. It's really cool. Hey, bring it back here. You guys were, we were kind of talking a little bit beforehand. You guys were here almost to the day, late September 2022. So it's been 2 years. You guys were actually here in this venue, put on an awesome show. And we're back again. New album, new tour. What kind of fun, exciting stuff can we expect?
Well, we're still got the setting as to how many mistakes there are.
Yeah, the whole idea of this tour is that every night is a different set. So we're not going to tell you exactly what to expect, but it's definitely different than last night's show, and the night before that, and the night before that, and it's this balancing act of stuff from Let Go, Hyena, Paradise, these newer albums, and sort of like 90s catalog pieces. And yeah, we just figure it out on the day, and just over coffee on the bus, and try to pull it off at the gig, you know.
Keeps us on our toes for sure.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. Cool. So good balance of sort of the modern era, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then if we recall, I would affectionately refer to the 90s as that classic era for sure.
Yeah, we've got older ones we haven't even busted out yet. We haven't played yet.
And all the stuff in between, you know, the whole 2000s,
yeah,
2010s, all that, you know, that's
revival.
all in there as well.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Well, and so, you know, here's the thing with that, right? 40 years gives you a lot to draw from.
Yeah.
Right? The catalog is pretty wild, right? Always very prolific. KMFDM, putting out new music all the time. Never seems to really be a drought. How do you keep that up?
Comes naturally.
Yeah?
Not really thinking much about it. Just, you know, when it's time to record an album, we just stick our heads together and buck it out.
Now, when you guys are doing it, I've been looking forward to having this conversation because all of your music, a lot of it is pretty charged, right? Like there's a message to that. There's, you know, it's the sound is awesome. That whole techno-industrial sound. Like for people that are into that, it's a draw, right? But at the same time, like you're saying something on every album. So when that happens, how does that start for you? Is it a theme? Like when you're writing, like, are you thinking like, I need to say something about this? Is that where it's like? How does that go?
I think it's a little bit of that, but it's also just like there's a constant angry energy, sort of. I think in all of us that wants to find its way out. So we're trying to funnel the stuff both in the lyrics and in the music. So if it's mediocre, then it can't happen. It's got to be full on in your face and balls to the fucking wall.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
So yeah, no one in the band is a particularly angry person, so it just follows itself through the music for sure.
Yeah, no, it's cathartic, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. But you know, again, as mentioned, like that's something that there never seems to really be an end to that stream, right? You guys just put out an album in February, Let Go. Yeah.
We get back from tours and Sascha just starts sending us stuff already. Like, uh-oh, here we go again.
So are we already working on the next one then?
Well, let's kind of get this started.
Let's kind of get started. That's what I was going to ask too. Does any of this stuff happen while you're on the road too at all, or not really?
Well, there's a good amount of note-taking and field recording and, you know, just sort of collecting ideas. I mean, it's at the end of a tour, I'm just sort of sorting through my stuff, and I, you know, weed out what was a good idea, what was not. I start making my sound libraries, and things start to take shape almost by themselves. Really, it's you know, actually some of the songs lately come from dreaming stuff. You know, I woke up at some point and I had the song "Blind Face" and absolutely in my head. It was written in an hour after waking up.
That's cool.
Before you even had a coffee, you know, it was just bam. That's it. You know?
Got to put it down right away before you forget.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So I love the idea of mixing up that set list every night. Kind of going back to that a little bit. That certainly would allow any band to go a little deeper into the catalog, right? Because at this point, 40 years in, there's a lot of great tunes that would otherwise probably suffer for a little exposure.
And you can never keep everybody happy. Everybody's going to always request something that we're not doing. But I mean, Sascha, you know, kind of dug up some of the older stuff that we were going to do compared with the more recent stuff. Sort of mashed it all together. I mean,
We have a repertoire of 40 songs right now.
Yeah.
And, the tour will wind up in Chicago with like 2 shows there. So the idea is play 20 songs the first night and the other 20 the second night.
Ooh.
So they get 2 completely different sets. And we have delivered our 40 songs for 40 years.
Wow. So if you're following this tour at all, go to both of those shows in Chicago and you're going to get the whole shebang. Huh?
Totally.
The
Yeah.
whole shebang.
Oh man, that's tempting.
But yeah, I mean, the catalog, like you said, is pretty vast. I think there's a total of 380 titles that I've registered with BMI and the MSC. So picking stuff is really hard, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about which song is representing this or that particular album. It's more like what's fun to play, what kind of goes well with this and that. And, so it's not like necessarily playing the title tracks of each album, even though we do in some instances, but just really, you know, looking into the sort of playfulness of the material and thinking also how the audience will react to them. And, you know, there's some songs that are maybe a little bit odd to some people. Why are they playing that way? But maybe.
Because there's different lineups over the years. We have to keep in mind what works with this lineup.
Yeah.
We're in charge of the
Yeah.
show, so
Right.
It's not our audience.
That's for sure. As a consumer of live music, seeing a different set every night, or a varied set at least, is really appealing though too, right? Like, and there's a lot that goes into that, right? Like everything is coordinated, like your lights and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that's not terribly easy to do, but it's certainly exciting, especially for people that want to catch more than one show on a tour, right? Like, you know, if a band's coming to your city, you get what you get.
Yeah.
And as you well know, right, most bands are touring a greatest hits package. That's just the way it goes. When you can have stuff like that, I mean, I would guess you're probably seeing people that are going out of their way to catch more than one show.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Like Wally, for instance.
What's that?
There's this kid, Wally,
Wally?
who's following us like pretty much all along.
Is he gonna be here today?
Yeah, I think so.
Is he going to be here today?
Yeah.
It's going to be in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
He was at the show
It's
last
going to be
week.
in Cleveland or Pittsburgh.
All right.
God knows.
Yeah, we're a funny market here in Buffalo because we're so close to all these other markets, right? Pittsburgh, Toronto, Cleveland, all that stuff. Like, we get a lot of shows, but the ones we don't get, they're gonna hit probably every one of those other cities. Are you guys doing Toronto?
No.
No?
Nope, we can't do Canada anymore.
Gotcha.
Got a problem there.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's a fun city, but like there's plenty to play here too. So I'm glad you guys came back to Buffalo.
Oh, me too.
You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been some time. It took me until that show 2 years ago to actually see you live, despite being introduced in the '90s, and really taking to that sound, right? Because there's just not a lot out there that hits the same way, right? I mean, like I'm a metal guy, that's what I like. But then, you know, a buddy of mine gave me a bunch of your stuff back in the day. It was like, this guys are awesome. You gotta check it out. And Symbols was a first day purchase because I was already into it by then. Angst, huge one. You know, all that stuff was a lot of fun. So I was bummed it took me so long, but back again, covering the show again. And if you're not catching this, you're missing out. So.
I like discovering bands later on.
Yeah.
You've got a whole back catalogue to go into.
That's fair.
Oh, I didn't know about this. And you can go way back and say, oh, great.
An interesting,
very good stuff.
Yeah.
an interesting aspect is that you would kind of think a band has been around for 40 years, so they're all like, you know, age-wise, everybody's up there. Not so. We have a huge following of teenage kids now. And it's amazing. You know? They go like, oh, I got started on whatever, Hyena, a couple of years ago, and then they work their way back through the catalog.
Yeah.
Discover all the stuff that happened when their parents when they come to our shows. So.
That's, you know what, I'm seeing that at a lot of shows lately too. Like, bands that I would say, I don't know how, like there's a lot more teenagers there than I would expect. And, you know, like, on the one hand, that's awesome, right? Like, especially as a band, like, that's another generation to open up to your music. And you know, younger kids are going to stream the music more than, you know, necessarily going out and buying an album. But, you know, I caught that at Red Hot Chili Peppers this summer was one that stood out to me. I'm like, you know, they've been around forever. I love the band, but I'm like, why are you kids here? like I don't get it.
I don't know if it's the same, you know, it's kind of Spotify and Pandora,
yeah,
and streaming platforms and stuff. But I mean, you know, when I was a kid, I mean, it was just going through your parents' record collection.
Yeah.
Anybody's house you went to, I mean, the first thing I went for was the
I hope it's like
collection.
that.
It's just like, well, what's there? What's new?
Yeah, I hope it's like that. I do that with my own kid. I try to introduce him to stuff I listen to. We got a turntable downstairs, you know, but I don't know how some of these kids listen to stuff is tricky. But I guess the answer is it doesn't really matter. They're showing up.
Exactly.
I think the amazing thing is just this whole concept of like teenagers and their parents agreeing on music.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
a really
like-
good call.
Like there isn't this rebellion thing of, oh, fuck you, that's your music, this is my music, you don't get me. It's like, no, they're simpatico in their music taste. It's just it's kind of a beautiful thing. And also, I think that kids, because they're exposed to music in such a voracious way now, that there isn't this thing about genres anymore. They don't give a shit about genres. So there isn't like, oh, you like this kind of band, so therefore that kind of band is off limits. It's just, nobody apologizes for whatever they listen to. It's really interesting.
That's
what I
a
like
great
about
take.
My mother's record collection, because I go through everything, and you know, from Elvis, ABBA,
Yeah.
The Who, and then for my 10th Christmas, she bought me Iron Fist by Motorhead and Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and you know, just I like it all.
That was my first Motorhead album. So
Iron Fist.
Yeah.
I got it much later though, in the late 90s.
Oh man, that's cool. That's cool. That honestly, that's a really great take, and I've never thought about how different like my music was than what my parents listened to, and we probably all went through a bit of that, right? Like to your point, it's not like that at all. Yeah, we're very much listening to the same thing, which is kind of cool. I'll listen to whatever my kid finds, and I hope you're listening to what I do. I like taking them along to shows, and I don't know. That's really cool, and that probably is a bigger reason than anybody thinks. You know what I mean? My folks listen to kind of like oldies music back in the day. Like, I don't know.
Well, that music act, when you say oldies, what do you mean?
Like a lot of 50s stuff.
So there's a thing that the fidelity of music really starts getting amazing in the 70s.
Yeah.
And really, it hasn't, you could argue that it hasn't really improved since then.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could be a kid now and listen to, you know, Black Sabbath or Pink Floyd or anything like that, and it still sounds good on a sonic level. It's still satisfying. I couldn't imagine being a teenager and listening to music from like the 40s or 50s because it sounded so old to me.
Yeah,
that's
right.
really the equivalent of what these kids are. You know, these kids listening to music from the 80s is like that. It's like it was made way before they were born.
Yeah.
But they don't have any prejudice against it. They don't see it as being old-fashioned music. It just sounds good to them.
And a lot of those sounds keep working their way into modern stuff now too. I mean, at least some of the stuff that I listen to, there's little tinges of kind of the 80s pop vibe in this, and it's like there's a little bit of everything.
It's one good thing about the streaming, but I mean, as much as I have a hatred for Spotify and how they don't pay artists and such, I mean, there's good to be said in as much as my wife listens to Pandora all the time, which is just like play music of a certain genre, of a certain similar to a certain artist. You'll discover lots of new things that you would never have dug out on your own.
Yeah,
and I mean
that's a good side of it.
The technology and the latest technical breakthrough was probably arguably the sampler back in the 80s when samplers became affordable, and nothing much has changed. You can listen to like surround sound, but still the consumer still goes to stereo.
Yep.
And like Andy said, the sound from the 70s and 80s is still great. It hasn't really progressed much from that. I mean, genre-wise, what's the latest genres you would say? Maybe K-pop or something.
There's been so many sub-genres and sub-genres of sub-genres.
Everything is a cocktail. It's like it's like a little of this, it's a little of this, it's all together. You know, you think of something like baby metal. You know, it's like who thought that was going to taste good? You know, that combination of things, but
Japanese producer probably.
Right.
But it found an audience. You know.
Yeah.
Chocolate and peanut butter.
The last time I remember discovering groundbreaking new music was when hip hop came up in late 70s, early 80s. And I mean, techno to me was not anything new really. It was just like a play on electronic body music or something. But really, since hip hop, nothing much cultural has changed in music, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, because you're going to hip hop was kind of a punk equivalent.
Something's got to take the place of hip hop because hip hop is dropping off now. Like, it ruled the world for so long, and it's starting to lose its grip.
It's been so watered down and mishmashed.
So I'd be interested to see
someone needs to wipe the floor and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're doing that with Diddy right now.
Punk came along and had its thing and sort of set the slate clean, and Nirvana came along and wiped out the rival bands and stuff. But
And through it all, here you are.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I don't know what's around the corner. Everything's kind of derivative of something else. It's like I said, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's never going to sound terribly foreign, right? Because it's all going to be comprised of stuff we listen to. But I love that you guys are out here still. I love that you're doing this. I love to get another chance to see you tonight. I'm excited as hell for that. And I'm really glad that that North America gets another chance to see you guys during this tour.
Well, it's a good thing that we do. We love doing it, so
that helps.
Definitely.
We're always doing it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Doing it again.
Yep. Cool. Well, looking forward to the show tonight. I don't know what they're playing, but I'm excited. But not yet. The time has not come yet, huh?
Not quite.
We shall decide in a few minutes.
All right. Well, hey, you never know. I'm sure I don't have any influence, but that's okay. Guys, this was really cool. Thank you so much for giving me a little bit of insight on kind of the way KMFDM works today. A little bit